when you talk about access, you said access is something that would help, lower the price of natural gas. What does access look like to you? Does that mean pipelines or how we're getting it? Like, what does that mean?
Well, it does mean pipelines, and we've got over 500,000 kilometers of underground infrastructure delivering gas to Canadians right now. And as the country grows, you need to build more. And as the world comes to our door, as it is right now, as you know well, Jas, I mean, European countries and others are knocking on our door saying, hey, can we get more of your product? We need to be able to get our product to those markets. And that means building the pipelines, building the LNG export facilities that can do that. So that's a big challenge, is making sure we have sufficient infrastructure to deliver to the markets that want our product.
Absolutely. And in your opinion, we push back on this quite a bit, that bills like Bill C-69 and Bill C-48, these are some bills, in our opinion, that have not helped in the development, or even, canceled some projects in some cases when it comes to pipelines. Because I agree with you, we need more infrastructure. We need to bring the cost down. And to your point, that is, pipelines would help that. Have you heard from your members or people just in the industry about those bills specifically, if they've hindered or at all stopped any type of production of good projects that could have been built in Canada?
Well, some of our members were very active in efforts to change some of that legislation to ensure it would be less restrictive. And so, we're not happy with the current legislative and regulatory framework, because we think it sends a signal to the investment community and to builders that, you're not going to get stuff built here in Canada. And I think there's a growing awareness that this is a really, really big problem. And, Jas, I'm most intrigued by the growing sense amongst Indigenous Canadians, who are increasingly actively involved as equity owners in gas projects and other natural resource projects, who are saying, wait a second, what are we doing here? You're preventing the development of things that are going to deliver economic opportunity to those who really need it in Canada and around the world. So, we're hoping that framework can be changed. I mean, we do think that the current government has been paying much more attention to the energy reality around the world in the last 6 months, given the global dynamic we were discussing, Jas, and we're hoping that this may affect some change.
Good points, and to your point as well, I fully agree with you that the Indigenous communities, having a partnership with them, but more importantly, we talk about economics for them. I think having that economic sovereignty with partnering with the Indigenous communities would bring so much to them, as a collective, whether it's with the government or with other organizations. I think for them to have sovereignty is another good way for us to work on reconciliation, which is such an important topic today as well. So I fully agree with you. Now, you were talking about Europe as well, and we know recently that the Germany came to Canada, and literally said, "We need your energy. We need your energy. Give it to us." And didn't get the response, obviously, from the Prime Minister that us who are supportive of the industry would have wanted how our Prime Minister wanted to respond. What's your take on what the Prime Minister did and didn't do, and when he said they'd have to make a business case? And on top of that, when we talk about hydrogen, like what kind of possibilities are there for hydrogen and the deal that they made?
Sure. So a couple of things there. First off, you mentioned the German Chancellor, and Jas, in the last 6 months, I've actually met with 18 different embassies from Europe, with ambassadors in Ottawa, who are very interested in finding out what more we can do to get Canadian gas to Europe. And I've met with the German embassy a couple of times, and then I had the pleasure of attending a session in Toronto with where the German Chancellor and the Canadian Prime Minister spoke. And at a break in that session, I actually had a few moments alone with the German Chancellor, and he reiterated that point that you referenced, the point he made I think it was a CBC interview. He said to me personally, he said, "Mr. Egan, we need your gas." So the need is great in Europe. The concern is great in Europe. And again, we're hoping that the government's responding to it. The Prime Minister's comments about a business case needs to be made. I actually agree with it. I think every project needs a good business case before it can go forward. And but I think what's critical to the business case for many projects in natural resource development is a clear and workable regulatory framework. And the thing that government can do to affect the viability of a business case is make sure that the regulatory framework is sending signals that we want business to proceed. And I think if that happens, we could see a lot more projects getting off the ground, and I think that would be very positive. On your last point about hydrogen, our industry is very, very involved in hydrogen. Alberta companies like ATCO are doing incredible work on looking at how we integrate hydrogen into the system. Remember, we're the Canadian Gas Association. That's about gaseous fuels. That could be natural gas. It could be renewable natural gas. It could be hydrogen. And so we're looking very closely at hydrogen. We think that there are some significant opportunities to integrate hydrogen into the mix. And I'd say, frankly, we're leaders at doing that. But what people need to know is that, one, it's going to cost more, and two, it's not available tomorrow.